indie game garden.
Lage Bergman is the solo game developer behind Chesto, a chess-like adventure. Heavily inspired by the Professor Layton DS games and Yu-Gi-Oh's Monster Chess, Chesto allows players to explore a cozy town and challenge its residents in a chess-inspired game with custom pieces. Lage describes it as Professor Layton, but instead of everyone being really into puzzles, they're really into chess. You collect new pieces with strange powers as you adventure through the brightly illustrated town. Chesto is still in development, but it's already a joy to play. Lage also developed Stig, a Sokoban-style puzzle game about finding a path through colors, with his partner Miriam, which they released on Steam in 2024. And recently, he released Line Break on his itch page, which is a Balatro-like in which you draw lines to get high scores. It's such an honor to welcome Lage into the garden today. He is far too humble, an extremely talented game dev. And without further ado, here we go. Well, hey, Lage, thank you so much for being here. To start, can you talk me through your journey with games? What got you into games in the first place? And how did you decide to start making them?
Yeah, so I guess I've always been a gamer on some level, like Game Boy as a kid and all that. And then somewhere in middle school, we started having LAN parties because my parents had a really good basement for having
Oh,
LAN
cool.
parties, and we played a lot of Warcraft 3 at that time. And that's when I started experimenting with the level editor. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen YouTube videos of it, but I haven't interacted with it myself.
Right, yeah, but it's kind of like coding. I think Blizzard has a lot of those kinds of tools in like StarCraft, Warcraft, all those games. But it's like a visual kind of coding thing. And it's the first time I did programming without knowing it was programming. It's like a lot of this, then, if else kind of stuff, very basic. Like, so I made a lot of like custom maps. So like at school, I was like, next LAN party, we're going to do my awesome custom map with all this weird logic that I've implemented,
Yeah.
And then I started high school, and I went to a school where the computers there were pretty like kitted out, if that's how we say it. Like we had a lot of programs installed, Photoshop, some audio stuff, and we had Visual Studio, not Visual Basic, Visual Studio, so C# programming. And it wasn't even part of the curriculum. It wasn't anything I studied, but a friend of mine in high school had done it before. So he showed me on the school computer, and that got me hooked. So I installed that like at home and started making games.
Very cool. That seems like a very natural and organic process toward game development, which I love to hear. One of the things for me as someone who doesn't have a coding background that I am fascinated with are games that allow you to have a level editor. The one I was mainly exposed to growing up was Mario Maker. And that just like, and then I became pretty fascinated recently with this super old video of Derek Yu, the like all-star designer behind Spelunky and UFO 50 now, like making his own level in Mario Maker. And it's fascinating to see how like, while of course the code isn't custom, a lot of the like design and kind of I guess thought processes that go into making a level can all be right there at your fingertips with such a low barrier to entry. And it's really cool that you were able to access those Warcraft 3 custom editors at such a young age. It sounds like it really had a big impact.
For sure.
Well, let's like fast forward to the present moment. And while doing that, I would love to hear more about just like as you progressed, on from learning C# in high school, perhaps going to university. Where does the story lead? What was kind of your trajectory to starting to put games out for folks to play on places like itch.io? Now you're, of course, working toward a commercial Steam release, which is really exciting. Where does the story lead us from there?
yeah, so yeah, like you said, university for programming for software engineering. Because I can't remember if I was aware that there was a games program, like a dedicated game design or games programming uh, education available in
Yeah.
Sweden at that time, or if it was one of those people kept telling you that if you make your hobby your job, you won't be enjoying your hobby
Mm,
anymore.
hmm.
That's something I've heard a lot, I feel like, and kind of took to heart. So I was like, I'll code accounting software or whatever for my day job, and then I'll work on games as my hobby, so I can keep doing what I love and not like get
Yeah.
bored of it. Um, so yeah, I did software engineering, but all through the engineering program, I was making games on the side, mainly with my brother at that time, like making Unity games. Nothing that ever got released. We made a fighting game one time where the the release was that we got a bunch of friends together and had some beers and managed to play the game for one night and like had fun without it crashing.
Ah, that's
That was
great.
like the whole release. Yeah, that was a fun time, fun memory. Yeah, but yeah, then last 2 years ago, I guess, I got my partner into making
Oh,
games as
cool.
well, because she's also a software developer, but she's never been making games. And we like took the scope like way down because we'd been playing a bunch of puzzle games together, kind of like couch co-op, giving the controller back and forth to each other. You know, nothing two-player, just single-player games, playing them together. So we got inspired by that. Like, hey, could we make a puzzle game of our own? Uh, and that's how Stig, our first game, got made.
Gotcha. Yeah. I was gonna ask about Stig. Um, to my knowledge, it was your first Steam release, but correct me if I'm wrong. What inspired you to push it through for a commercial release on Steam instead of just leaving it to something like Itch? And what did you learn from that process that you're now carrying um, into putting out Chesto?
So I guess a commercial release has always been a goal of mine, just as a kind of proving
Yeah.
myself kind of thing. We were like I said, how can we make the scope smaller? Because I'd always been trying to make a commercial release, like all of those games I made with my brother. There was never not the plan to release them. It was always some kind of roadblock we couldn't get over, or like, you know, stuff takes time and you kind of get bored of it and you put it to the side. So this was like laser focused, like, don't add anything extra. It's all flat colors, it's all just shapes, no art, a bit of music, but nothing too fancy, kind of. So that was the goal. Yeah, I don't know if that answered the
Yeah, it
question.
definitely does as far as kind of the place that Stig holds in your canon, if you will. Um, but did
Mm.
you learn anything from putting something on Steam, or was it fairly straightforward? Sometimes I hear from devs that they have a fine experience with it. Sometimes they're like, "Oh my gosh, all the key art and pricing and all this stuff that I never had to think about now was coming kind of right in front of my face, and that can be a challenging experience." What was your experience doing that?
Yeah, definitely that. Like, Steam is not not
Yeah.
obvious to anyone, I think, on first glance. But the fact that there were two of us, we got through it, and that we could discuss and like do research together, I think helped a lot. But also a big learning experience. One thing we learned during the process, I don't think we had this in mind beforehand, was the development of internal tools. We kind of, like I was talking about with the level editor for Warcraft, we made our own little internal Stig level editor. And a big thing was you could play the levels in the level editor. Since there were two of us, I could design a puzzle in our internal level editor, show it to Miriam, my partner, and she would like try to solve it. And then sometime down the line, we got a lot of playtest feedback saying like, "Oh, this you could cheat in this level really easily." So then Miriam made like a brute force script that would tell us like, okay, the solution we have set as like we had a file containing the solutions kind of in a sort of coding language, like a written document with like this is how you solve the level. It could check like no, there's a brute force solution that's smaller. So that means there's some kind of shortcut or a cheat. So those kinds of tools, I think, is something I bring with me to future projects for sure. Those helped out a lot.
Yeah, that's fascinating to hear as far as making the level editor for you both to kind of bounce ideas back and forth. And it also gives some really nice insight, I think, into the type of collaboration that you have with your partner, which to me, I'm imagining it like this very fruitful like brain blast of two programming minds going at it. It sounds really cool. Have you found that like working with your partner has kind of opened up your ideas on games or your creativity within them?
Yeah, yeah. I think well, we think in similar ways on a lot of things and in different ways. So I guess it's opened up my creativity in the way that I can talk with her about it and bounce ideas. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure if that unlocks my creativity, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd say working with someone else is always beneficial. Like you learn a lot. I think I evolved a lot in that project that I just don't know now that I did. I think.
Right. Yeah, it's always something that I feel like it's easy for an outside observer to comment on, or even easy for ourselves to look back on and be like, huh, maybe I learned this. But in the moment, it's pretty hard to tell. Um, I guess I was wondering more generally because you were commenting on collaborating with your brother and now Miriam. Um, what do you find is the value of collaboration in games? And that could be from your perspective as a game developer. That could even be the collaborative idea of like working with testers or even just sharing a game with players. Where do you find collaboration comes into the
Hmm.
process for you or the value you find in it?
Well, first of all, on like a skill point, like you could have very different
Yeah.
skills, making you more than the sum of your parts, kind of like the normal case is a programmer and an artist, or a programmer and a musician, or something like that. You know, you can make better stuff because you have more skills if you're more people, but also different mindsets, different perspectives, different backgrounds make you bring different stuff to the table and have different ideas. I think collaborate. I mean, this is very broad, but like collaboration in general is always a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like the only time where it can get troublesome is if there are like butting of heads or
Hmm.
disagreements that can kind of staunch the project. And I think that working with folks who you're close to and who you already have these, loving relationships with, I imagine has helped that for the most part. Right? Sometimes the folks we're closer to can have those unique things that annoy us too. But it sounds like it's overall been a net positive, and it's been really cool to play these games. Speaking of which, before we dive into talking about Chesto, a very, very recent release that you came out with on your itch page that you can just play in a browser, which is awesome, is called Line Break. And you describe it
Hmm.
as kind of like a line drawing Balatro like, which it does feel quite similar to. Um, and Balatro, as far as you're kind of getting these upgrades each round and working toward a higher and higher score. And
Hmm.
I would love to hear more about kind of the foundations of the idea for the game and the execution of it. I think it's a really, it's such a beautiful, it's beautiful in its simplicity. I guess similar to Balatro in that way, and how each upgrade really builds on itself and makes the game complex in a way that still feels approachable. So I was wondering if you could talk through developing that game, why you made it, what are your goals for it, how do you like it?
Hmm. Well, first of all, beautiful in its simplicity makes me really happy, because that's sort of the main idea behind the whole thing. Was like, I don't know how I came up with the whole drawing lines thing, but I was like, well, lines can be drawn in very different ways. So there could be a strategy to making it better for you to draw short lines or long lines or curvy lines or straight lines, like, and there could also be curveballs thrown at you, like, no, you can't draw, you have to draw straight lines. I don't know how that idea came, but it just came, and I've been like obsessed with Balatro for a while. uh, so yeah, I was like, can I make a Balatro? Like, is it it didn't feel uh, cool. I don't know. Can I say
Yeah.
this? It feels played out. Even though Balatro is not old, it got so popular that like those games are
Right.
everywhere. So I was like, I won't put all my eggs in the Balatro like basket, starting to make this several year project now for it to come out when the whole genre is dead. Uh, that was kind of but it was also like, okay, I had this Chesto project. I like to work on it. I will continue to work on it, but I was also, shiny new things syndrome. This
Totally.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll give myself a little bit of time, and I told myself in the beginning, this will be a free game. It will be a small free minimalist game, uh, just to put my own expectations in that mindset, like small, free, don't run off on any epic adventures with this thing, just like get it out there and see what people think. um, yeah, and I like it. I'm like super proud of it. I know I get feedback all the time, like, oh, you could do this and this and this, and I was like, yeah, I could, but yeah, I you know yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you mention, scope in its different varieties during this interview already, where you've mentioned working with your brother on projects that you were thinking would be released, but always hit a roadblock or got bored because they were kind of ballooning out and put them to the side. I've heard you mention it with, Stig, where you're talking about we're laser focused, we're only doing, these few elements and we're going to do them well. And then a similar story with this most recent game, Line Break. And so I was wondering, like, where does thinking about scope come in to your thought process as a developer? It seems like you've grown pretty sensitive to making sure that your projects are scoped manageably, and I would love to hear more about your idea of that.
Hmm. I I don't know if this is an international saying, but like a burnt child flees from the fire. you know, I've been, I've made that mistake before of feature creep, scope creep. Not having a good scope and all that. So I think, yeah, like, I think it's a. I have this epiphany now that you say it. I've not thought about it before, but it's like this very linear, like, okay, at the start, my first game, huge, never got out. My next game, smaller, never got out. Next game, okay, Stig, just on the sort of below the line where I was able to make it, smaller scope. And then this game, even smaller, super small. So it's like scope has been decreasing, output has been increasing, I
Yeah,
suppose. But also, I don't want to be the person who just pumps out these tiny minimalist games. I think that's why, like, Stig being a commercial release, like we made it. Like, it felt like a
yeah,
success, kind of. And that gave me the confidence to be like, okay, I know I have the the potential to stick with a project at least for 1 year. And after that year we made Stig, I was like, I want to keep going. So my next project, if that goes on for a year and I'll feel I want to keep going, then why not make that game a 2 year game? You know
right.
what I'm saying? Am I making
Yeah,
sense?
definitely.
So that was the idea behind Chesto. Like, okay, I want to keep staying motivated, doing this thing like a longer project and actually finishing it, right? So like increase the scope again from Stig, make it a bigger game, but then don't. It's supposed to be fun the whole way, so don't shy away from game jams, thinking like, oh, I can't do a game jam, I have to work on this thing, because then it won't be fun for as
Right.
long. So I think that's why I allowed myself to take a break and make line break. But yeah, to stay motivated on Chesto, you know.
That makes total sense. Like having little, fun checkpoints along the way where you're able to break up the longer project is, I think, probably, this is skipping way ahead in our interview, but really good advice for game devs too, as far as like break up those longer projects with fun, smaller ones that remind you why you're doing it. Right. I find that like a lot of what I do in life feels hollow if I forget like the reason why I started doing it or the values I bring to it. And it sounds like that's a great way to remind yourself. It's also so cool to hear about how you kind of like live the classic game dev advice that I hear a lot on this show of like make small games, right? And the smaller the game you make, when you put it out, you can then make a slightly larger game and build on that, right? And it sounds like you've learned the hard way, going from bigger game to less big game to small game you can release and then working up from there. But it's really illustrative to see just how well that works in your experience. And so I hope folks can take inspiration from that. But as you've discussed, you've now moved on to developing Chesto, a chess-like adventure, which is the full name. It's a game which is super up my alley, and I can't wait to play the whole thing, even though I know we have a while to go until then. It actually reminds me, I realized while playing, of one of my favorite computer games growing up when I was just a little kid playing on my parents' computer, called Fritz and Chester Learn to Play Chess. It's even illustrated similarly. So it presses all of my nostalgia buttons on top of being a really cool adventure game idea, punctuated with these like chess battles that build on one another through a wide array of custom pieces that you're building into the game. And to start, I would just love to hear about what kind of originally inspired you to make Chesto.
Yeah, well, there's a long answer to this one
Yeah,
as
I
well, I
love
think.
to hear it. Go
But
for it.
um, I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards
Me too.
when I was smaller. Yeah, I know like Magic is the cool one and Yu-Gi-Oh is the kid one, but I was a kid, okay.
Me too.
So like deck building, I think I was fascinated with that, like Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So that that's probably where that comes from. I love like taking apart all the cards, like laying them out and like making strategies, synergies, builds, all that good
Yeah.
stuff. And then I read, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. Do
Yeah.
you know there's a
Mm-hmm.
manga?
Oh, I didn't. I know there's a manga. I haven't read it. The anime is like one of my favorite shows from a kid. Yeah.
The manga, they translated the manga to Swedish, I guess, because the card game was popular or whatever.
Cool.
So we had that when me and my brother when we were kids, and there's a lot more stuff in there than the card game. It feels like the card game came later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a whole thing, but they play something called Monster Chess, I think,
Huh.
which is basically Chesto. Like in my game Chesto, the world. Everyone in the world loves playing this chess game. So there is a chess game in the world, and there's custom pieces that you can collect and you can play with. So it's basically like if there was a chess Yu-Gi-Oh, what would that look like? That's my kind of vision for
I
it.
love it.
But having collecting cards is easy. Collecting figurines with custom rule sets, I think, is like what how it doesn't make sense. So that's why video game,
Yeah.
right? Because then you can have a HUD UI tell you how they move. When I was making games in high school, like the first time I got a programming language to learn, I started making something similar. So this idea has been in my head for like a long time. So yeah.
That's really interesting to hear, and it's cool that you're bringing the idea through what I hope will be a finish line and what I know will be from your experience. That is fascinating. I never would have thought Yu-Gi-Oh! For the like main inspiration. Of course, I can see it in like the deck building elements or what have you, but I'll have to look into this monster chest. That's a very inspiring idea to me too, and another another key reason why I'm sure I will love the full game and loved what I've played of it so far. There's a fascinating devlog on your YouTube channel, which I'll be sure to link in the show notes. But in that devlog, you discuss how you've gone about creating the art for Chesto, because you love Professor Layton and those games' aesthetics on the DS and 3DS. And you've tried to emulate that art style as best you can by taking pictures of scenes in your local area, and then tracing over them to give them kind of a cozy, hand drawn look and feel. And I think it creates a wonderful vibe and just general mood for the game. Like it feels cheery and exciting to be playing. Um, what's the process of doing all the art yourself for Chesto been like so far?
Mostly fun. I find it like I like taking walks. I enjoy having this different lens to like view my city from. You know, like hey, this is kind of cool. You know, I walk by this tree every day, but it's like a nice looking tree. I should take a picture of that and trace it. You know, it gives me a newfound appreciation. I'd say, and then using vector art, using Inkscape. I it's super like flow statey.
Yeah.
I get into like a total groove with that program, just drawing.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
so it's fun. I hope it turns out okay in the end.
I'm certain it will, because you can even see that in the playtest that's on Steam right now, which again I'll link in the show notes, and folks should definitely wishlist the game. Of course, we've heard a lot about on this show how much that can help indie devs. Um, so you're based in, and tell me the correct pronunciation, but I'm going to do my best with it. You're based in Gothenburg, Sweden. And your strategy for creating art for this game, as we've discussed, means that like a lot of local landmarks and this new perspective you've talked about walking around your area will be baked into the game's world. What does like creating games that reflect your local landscape mean to you? This is like the first time, obviously, that that's been a literal kind of like one to one. But have you found, your culture or your landscape seeping into any other of your projects?
No, not into any other projects. No, but I really, like I said, like I like the city. I think it's a beautiful city. There are a lot of cool places, and it's really fun to be able to stitch together locations. Like I can take all the cool ones and just now they're next to each other. In my game, they're next to each other because then you only get the cool.
Yeah,
Uh, but it's yeah, I wish to kind of share this. For people who live here, I think it would be especially
yeah,
cool. They can find this appreciation for the landmarks, not just the popular like mainstream ones, the cool ones too that no one knows.
yeah,
No, but also like share my city with people around the world. I think is also cool.
yeah.
I don't know it means anything in particular like that, but I feel like it's nice. It's cool. I like to share it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the more I live life, the more I realize that something being cool is pretty much, as much meaning as there needs to be in it. And I agree, it's super cool, and it's another one of those like video game specific things that you can build into Chesto, where it's like all the cool areas are just side by side, and it's just every single environment is like, wow, this is awesome. And
Hmm.
similar to the pieces being able to move and having those custom designs instead of having them physical, which would be a lot more confusing, as you mentioned. Speaking of kind of the chess battles and the actual chess in the game, Tell me how you're developing the difficulty curve of those encounters. That must be a lot to keep track of with adding each custom piece and making sure that the game doesn't like break when you add one in, right? How are you going about tracking all that and designing it?
Yeah, I can't say I have a super clear strategy. I'm sure there will be
Yeah,
instances where like this piece in combination with this other one is broken. I'm hoping is such a I should have this figured out by now. But the idea of the difficulty curve is more baked into the kind of NPC algorithm, because I've made it so you can dial in how many moves ahead each one can
I
look,
see.
and they can also have different sort of objective functions. Kind of, they will look at the board and give it a score, and then they will try different moves and evaluate which one gives the highest score, and that one is custom per NPC if I want to. And so I've been toying around with that, like making one opponent that's super aggressive. Like as long as it's a capture, it's the best move there is, and it just goes, and you're like have to really protect yourself, or someone that plays really defensively. And also like earlier NPCs don't look ahead as
Hmm.
much, so they're like worse at the game because they're not good at chess. They're not good at like board games in general. Whereas later in the game, you will meet opponents that can like really see into the future and make very strategic, good moves. So yeah, balancing the pieces will be difficult, and I'm not sure I've figured it out completely how I will do that. But I hope the difficulty curve will kind of make sense based on the NPC difficulty.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really fascinating challenge to kind of fine tune as you get closer to the finish line. But it's all about the process, right? And it sounds like you've already had a lot of fun and stimulation from designing each NPC and the way that they interact with the board. And hearing about that system is so fascinating to me. I appreciate you laying it out in layman's terms. Um, how have you gone about coming up with the ideas for the custom pieces that the player gets to use? Do the ideas just kind of come to you on your walks, or do you have kind of like a general plan, like a spreadsheet of like I want a piece that does this, I want a piece that does that? What's been the process there?
A lot of them, like you say, they come to me just on
Yeah,
walks or when I'm in the shower or whatever. But I like the synergies. I like the builds kind of. So I usually think that way first. Like, what could be a cool strategy? Okay, this could be a strategy. Which pieces are required for that strategy? And then I suppose I haven't done this yet, but what you could do is take a group of random pieces. Like, okay, these ones probably wouldn't make sense together, but what could I
mm,
introduce that would help them interact better? That's how we did with a lot of the puzzles in the Stig game. It was like, how can you make an interesting puzzle using these mechanics that haven't been in a level together before? Oh, we need to introduce a third thing, and that ties them together in a neat way, you know?
yeah. That's something that as someone who, doesn't make games regularly, I haven't thought about as far as like a design concept, but it speaks to this like very organic and, to my mind, very practical implementation of game design where you start with, as you said, kind of a few rules, or in the case of chess, like the set rules. And then slowly building on that will lead to these problems, that need to be solved, and solving them with new mechanics, I think is a really cool way to layer on new ideas in ways that feel natural with kind of the game's flow. So while it's probably very practical to you, it seems like a great solution to me. Which kind of brings me to my next question, and you might have a few, or maybe not a clear answer for it. But what's kind of been your favorite new chess move set that you've been playing around with? Like, how does the piece move? What is the custom piece you're most excited about so far?
Of the pieces that are in the playtest right now, I'd say the whole. Okay, this is very specific if you haven't played it, but I'll try to
Yeah.
explain. There's one piece called the grappler, which has a grappling hook. That's why it's called the grappler. So it can kind of, on a distance, target your own pieces and pull them towards
Yeah.
it. So that way you can move a piece of your own that can't move very far, very fast. You can kind of pull it all straight across the board in just one move. And that kind of stuff I think is cool. Like you could have a piece that is very powerful but don't have a lot of mobility, and then you can just kind of zip it to where it needs to be. That I find really cool. So I partnered that with this telekinetic that can do similar things, but like move your friendly pieces around itself. So just like from one tile away from it, pick a friendly piece, and then one tile away from it again, place it.
Yeah.
And together again with like a piece that can't move at all, but if it reaches the opposite side of the board, you win instantly.
Mm.
Then it becomes sort of a, what do you call it, an escort mission in a video game.
Yeah.
Like you have this whole different objective of chess. You could still do a checkmate, but you probably won't because your pieces suck at attacking. But if you can just escort this one piece all the way across, you win. That I think is cool. I don't know if it is, but to me it's cool.
It is. At least for our two minds, we can certainly say it is, because that's fascinating to me. And the idea of starting, in the current playtest, the tutorial, you're given a board, you're given pieces, you walk outside and you play your neighbor, right? And going from that, which is just normal chess, which I'm really bad at, and it took me even a while to checkmate that first player. And going from that to like playing just a video game that looks nothing like chess on your side of the board is like such a tantalizing idea. And I can see why it's stuck with you for so long, through these different iterations and through different times in your life. And I'm so excited for you that you are executing the idea, because I think it has not only so much potential just as like a video game in the space today, but I think it's an awesome way to bring in players who maybe, like chess or who are interested in chess, but are a little intimidated by just, regular chess, because you can have these moments where you're kind of, breaking the game in that similar Balatro inspired way, in a way where you're kind of adding in these new mechanics, and making what was once poker, or the idea of poker, into something that is completely bonkers and wild. And so it's really cool to hear. And it's also something that I think it connects chess to video games in a way that is very intimate, and that I see in like pretty much every tactics video game that I play. Recently, I've been playing Demon School and Mugenics a lot, both tactics games with pretty different takes on them, or on the genre. But in each, I'm reminded of chess so often. And then going and playing your game, I'm like, this is chess, and it's still so much more and feels like a tactics game a lot of the time. And so I know that was a lot of lecturing by me, but I think it's super fascinating to hear you talk about it, and I really appreciate you open up about your thoughts. Do you have any reflections on that before I move on to the next question? I guess I don't want to steamroll here if you have any other things to talk about.
No, I'm really excited to play Demon School as well. That's been on my backlog.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of time right now, so I don't. I'm like hesitant to get into a story game, but I feel my next big game that I get into probably Demon School. So I'm glad to be associated with that somehow.
Yeah, no, it certainly, the connective tissue was there when I was playing both this week. And if you do pick it up, I've actually found that a really good way to play it is like almost treating it like a puzzle a day type of thing. Because if you treat it like a story game, it can be like, wow, this is a really big story in here. But each like tactical engagement just takes 5 minutes or less. And I've actually found that a fun way to do it is just like one at a time. So it might actually be good for a pick up and play lifestyle. And I'll be interested to hear if you dig in. But after that digression, talk to me about the Swedish game scene. Sometimes I ask folks from countries that are not the U.S. and folks in the U.S. this question, and they're like, I don't know. Like, I just make games. I don't know if they have any connection to culture or who I am. But the only other Swedish guest I've had on the show was way back on my first episode with Jakob Wahlberg. And when I asked him this question, he kind of took it to mean just like talk about Swedish people and how their like blunt manner or kind of different cultural things come into games. I guess I'm wondering like, what's something about games from Sweden and or the folks that make them that my listeners should know?
The thing that comes to mind, and I'm not sure if it's a good answer to the question, but there are so many games from Sweden.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I knew this growing up. Like I said, I wasn't sure if there was even an education for games in Sweden when I was like younger. But there are so many games, and even on every sort of level of the spectrum. There are big AAA games like the Indiana Jones game that came out, and Ark Raiders and stuff like that. Those are Swedish, right? And the Image and Form Thunderful,
Yeah.
sort of mid tier. I guess, are they indie? No.
So yeah, Image and Form
so.
was, and then it got all wrapped up in stuff. So it no longer is. But yeah, it's kind of a developer that still makes indie games. I'm putting air quotes up because they look indie, but yeah,
Yeah. But there are also a ton of solo developers.
Yeah.
There's I'm in a Discord server for my city, which is like GBG Game Dev. They run meetups bi-week. No, wait, bi-weekly is twice a week. Once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like a very active scene that I also wasn't aware of until like a year ago or something.
Yeah.
And I don't, like I said, I had a kid recently. I don't have a lot of time, so I haven't been to a lot of these meetups. But that they're there, and that like there is a Discord where you can ask questions and stuff. And I feel inspired just knowing like the scene is alive around me. And I'm sure there are these similar communities in Stockholm, Malmö, whichever Swedish city. So I don't know if it says anything about the games or the people that make them in Sweden, but like the community is very much alive, and I wish I knew more about it earlier in my life. So
that super insightful answer actually, because I mean it's news to me. I knew Indiana Jones was a Swedish studio. I didn't know Ark Raiders, and yeah, it's just like it really goes to show how at every level Sweden is one of kind of the foremost game development countries, which is something I bet a lot of folks don't know. And it's something where like similar to perhaps Poland in a way where it just became this hub from, certain forces aligning and now it's a major leader in games. And yeah, I appreciate that insight. I would love to know, and it sounds like now the answer is going to be taking care of my child and working. But what are some of the things that kind of take up your time when you're not making games? What are some activities that bring you joy outside of games? Yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'm on like paternity leave, so I am taking care of my kid all the time. But she takes a nap, usually around 1.5, 2 hours at lunchtime. So that's my game dev time. But I don't know. I recently ran a half marathon, so I was training a lot for that when I had time to do that. But now that's over, so I'm not sure if I'm going to keep going or if I'm just like that's done. Chuck it in the bag, the medal on the wall, and now we're done. No, I also play a lot, not anymore, but I used to play a lot of board games. Cool. I enjoy board games a lot.
Yeah,
I have a friend group that meet up, do stuff. Sometimes we play games, sometimes we just hang out.
Nice. That sounds really fun. And the the running is something that I think a lot of creatives have kind of in the background, where it's like, or exercise, because I think it can be so it can just make us feel better, our brains and bodies feel better, and when that's the case, like, things get done. I was wondering, I asked this question to a lot of my guests who say they enjoy board games. Do you find that, I mean, obviously Chesto has board game origins. Do you find that uh, your design philosophy is influenced by board games, or do you like look to board games for inspiration ever, or in your brain are kind of video games and board games separate enough that it doesn't really come into play?
No, they're not separate enough. I've kind of come to realize that I like playing turn-based video games, and I'm best at making turn-based video games too. I
Yeah.
think I'm not. I think this is something that has come with age, but I've sort of moved away more and more from action-oriented, kind of fast-paced games. So, and that is more, like you said, with the tactical RPG kind of things, more similar to board
Yeah.
games. And with, I don't know, the evolution of, isn't like Wingspan on Steam?
Yeah.
Like every board game has a video game release, so it's like blurring the line even more. No, they're definitely an inspiration, I'd say.
Yeah. And it's really cool. It's like my turn-based video games are my favorite too, and particularly like indie video games. I just think the design of some of the turn-based indies out there is so like fascinating. I revisited Dicey Dungeons recently, a game by Terry Kavanagh, because I listened to a podcast of his based on the recommendation of a past guest, and it's just it was a big reminder how at the time when I played it, I was like kind of getting back into games in my adult life, and was like, oh, like these deck building games are a dime a dozen, and this one's fun and has a great art style, but kind of, that's it. And going back and looking at it based on kind of the insights I gleaned from the podcast, and thinking more about game design in my present life, it's just so beautiful, and seeing how much each of these turn-based games has to offer in terms of nuance and generosity. And that's something I feel from Chesto too. So I wanted to express that to you, and just say, keep going. Because I think not only is there an audience out there, but I'm out here, and I'm really excited to keep playing and following along. Before we close, I have a couple closing questions. The first was, you mentioned that there are a number of folks making games in Sweden, and feel free to say, I don't have any recommendations now, and I'll send them to you offline, or just to know. But is there anyone from your community that you think I should have on the show? Because I loved having Jakob on. I've loved having you on the show. Is there anyone else that you would like recommend to have on?
Can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. I know there's a guy who made a game. I can't even remember his name, but the game is called Paper Clay. It's like a 3D platformer.
Okay.
And I know I've listened to him on podcasts in the past, so I know he's at least available to be a guest on podcasts, I suppose.
Oh, this looks fun.
But I haven't spoken to him personally, so I don't know him. But
cool. Okay. Is it Y Kev? Is that the same?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a look. This game does look really fun. A good recommendation either way. But then that leads me into my next question. Recommend some games for my audience and me. What games, board or video, have inspired you recently throughout your life that you want to kind of shout out here before we close?
Damn, I haven't even thought of board games. Board games. There's one game called El Dorado. I think it's just called El Dorado, or maybe it's like The Road to El Dorado.
Yeah,
or something
I played
like that.
it.
But it's by Rainer Knizia, the greatest board game developer of all time. That game, I love.
So good.
It's so cool. Yeah. As far as video games go, Obviously, Layton games have been a huge
Yeah.
inspiration and are like a huge source of nostalgia for me. Mostly, probably the first one, but all of them, at least up until they went 3D with the 3DS. So at least the first three are very
Yeah.
good. And I've heard even there's a new one. Have you heard? So
Yeah.
they're making a new one, and it's coming to PC.
Yeah. It's gonna be wild, but I've heard that too. I'm excited to check it out.
Other than that, like Baba Is You is
So good.
the best puzzle game. Chants of Sonar is
So
another
good.
great puzzle
Yeah.
game that me and Miriam played. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then I was like thinking, okay, games that I played a lot and that inspired me in the past. There's one game called Tori Bash.
I've never heard of that
You're
one.
like this, it's like a turn based, physics based fighting game with crash test dummies.
Huh. Yeah, this looks so cool. What a good recommendation.
I play that so much, and it's super fun. And it's like this really quick kind of matches, so you can play very fast. And I think it's still free. I hope it
Yeah,
is.
it looks like it
I
is
hope
on
it's still
Steam.
up.
Yeah,
Like,
cool. Well, I will pop all of these recommendations in the show notes. And additionally, hearing you talk about Professor Layton, I'll put your YouTube channel in the show notes as well because you have some really cool devlogs on there. And what I love about your devlogs are that you kind of show the perspectives of the things you're talking about, right? So when you're walking around, you show like the building, and then you show how it looks when you color over it for Chesto, and you show you playing the DS games. And I don't know, I think they're really well done, and simple and easy to understand. And you're a great speaker, as well as game dev. So nothing but joy and compliments for you, Lage. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It makes me really happy to talk to you.
thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
And that was Lage. What a very generous person. What a bright and forthcoming person with the ideas that he shared. Obviously, you can tell he's humble, he's soft spoken, but the stuff going on behind those eyes, that's some beautiful stuff. I feel like in particular, the technique he discussed where you come up with this base set of rules, and within his kind of fascination with in-game level editors, it's almost like building a game is as simple as building a core set of rules, building that in-game level editor, and then just experimenting and solving problems by adding new novel mechanics. And of course, even that is exceedingly complicated. But when he breaks it down, it makes game design feel both fascinating yet simple, yet elegant. A lot like his games. So I would highly recommend them. All the links to those things will be in the show notes, but particularly as he works toward the release of Chesto, it's something that we should all do to support him. Wishlist that game, and join the playtest right now. You can really get a sense of the bones and the art style of what we're talking about, and it looks really, really good already. So go ahead and have a look at that and join me playing along. As far as the spiel for today, I don't have too much more beyond some more thoughts surrounding these like tech hubs in the world. I mean, here in the US, we have kind of like hubs of tech, obviously. Here in Seattle, where I live, in San Francisco, there's some of that going on in the East Coast as well. And still, those feel very like commercial and particularly today. Like, there was a time back when the internet was new and young and full of possibilities where it didn't feel like we were being funneled into ecosystems or being put in the back pocket of companies when we engaged with the tech scene. But here in the US, that's kind of what it feels like right now. There are, of course, indie devs making cool things, but the price of living is just so high in these tech hub areas, and housing is terrible, and it's not great. And so when I'm sure they share some of these similar issues, but when I see these kind of grassroots game hubs around the world, I feel very inspired and curious about, Gothenburg, Sweden, about Warsaw, Poland, about places in Brazil, and all over the world, where, of course, places in Asia, in Japan, which has been there from the start, Singapore, Hong Kong, all of these hubs of tech that are, yes, they have the AAA studios like Lage mentioned, but they also have these grassroots and very passionate and very well trained communities of game devs who are just pumping out these awesome projects. And so it's my goal to continue to keep Indie Game Garden global, and you will see that in our backlog of guests and our upcoming guests. But it's also really important for me to hopefully one day visit these places and experience them, not only through their culture and walking around cities like I love to do and have probably discussed on the show in the past, but through talking to game devs on the ground and meeting up with folks like Lage for coffee. So it's always important to remember that behind, your game, which all the more often these days it seems like we're just playing on our couches alone, or watching a Twitch stream of or even playing multiplayer with friends in that kind of confined space. There's usually a whole group of people behind that game, and they're out there, and if they're anything like Lage, even a half as generous and half as kind, they're a wonderful human soul. So keep supporting the humans in games. And keep being curious and having those conversations, because even if you're like me and you thought you were an introvert, it's possible that having those conversations about this common connective tissue can just be the most energizing thing in the world. So continue to do that. Be curious about the world, and I'll talk to you next week. If you enjoyed the show, the best thing you can do is tell one friend. I don't do anything to advertise it, so word of mouth is the best thing you can do to keep me going. And you can funnel them to the Instagram at Indie Game Garden. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Darth Malks, which is just my personal account that I use to post stuff. Or you can send me an email to kind of support me. Just say hi or recommend a guest for the show. That's at indiegamegarden@gmail.com. Bye-bye.